YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Today, going through my Detroit Lions record prediction. Mainly, we'll take a look at best case and worst case scenario. Not a lot of people predicting the Lions to win too many games this year. Definitely think they're heading in the right direction, though, on the right path here. So, we're doing this for every single NFL team, predicting game by game, eventually playoff predictions, Super Bowl predictions. You guys are playing along on Twitter. So, once this video is wrapped up here, I'll post a poll for the NFC North. You guys will vote for who wins the division. Been doing this for every single division once I finish the record predictions on those teams. So check out that Twitter, link down below at GoatHouseNFL. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe. Full NFL coverage here. But yeah, here's the Twitter. Make sure you check it out. Updated, keeping you guys updated on NFL news, and we'll posting polls, keeping you guys involved, like we said. PlayoffPredictors.com is the website we're using for this. Detroit Lions. Yeah, we'll go through the teams that I'm predicting to have a low amount of wins. We kind of just go through and look at the best case and worst case mainly here. I do like the direction they're heading. Love their draft. I thought they had the best draft out of any team. That was my opinion, but I thought they dominated the draft, really. I keep talking about they could be a little sneaky. They have a really good offensive line. That offensive line on paper, we'll see how it is on the field, but on paper, that looks like one of the best offensive line in football. Jared Goff, the last time he had that good of an offensive line, he went to the Super Bowl. Does that mean it's going to happen again? No, but he can play a little better because of that. What I'm worried about is the lack of the no number one receiver. Sure, they got some receivers that can play. It's weird. I don't know if there's ever been a team that felt like, okay, they're a receiver away from winning a chunk of games, more games, So I feel like the Lions are. If they had Kenny Golladay back, I probably think that helps him a little bit more because who are the weapons for Jared Goff? Are they good enough? Love the running game, love the offensive line. A lot on Jared Goff and those receivers. Defensively, I definitely think there's going to be an adjustment period. I think they have some good young talent, but they really, especially the defensive line throughout the draft. They added everywhere, but I think that's a future defensive line. It's going to be a very good one for sure. Adding Onwuzurike and McNeil, along with Michael Brocker is fantastic. But how will it translate this year? There could be some struggles, but it's a tough prediction to kind of go through my actual prediction. Probably only win a handful of games, to be honest. 3, 4 games, 5 games maybe. But I kind of want to run through and look at what the best case scenario is for the Detroit Lions, because they could be sneaky good here. They could beat the Niners in Week 1. Anything can happen in Week 1. They don't really have I'm going to pick the Niners in my actual prediction, but anything can happen there. I don't think they'll beat the Packers here. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson will probably be too much. I don't see them beating the Bears twice. We could have them splitting there. We could have them splitting with the Vikings as well. They can win the home games. They can beat the Bengals. I'm just trying to see best case scenario here. Rams, they could beat the Lions. Bye weeks, Steelers, Browns. They could beat the Steelers. They really could. I think the Broncos present the problem for them, defensively. I think the Lions are going to live and die by the run game first, and the Broncos can slow that down. They could give the Cardinals some problems. I'd probably still pick the Cardinals. Lions, Falcons probably be a shootout. I'm thinking around best case, maybe 7-10 is kind of best case scenario for the Detroit Lions. Why I think they could possibly do that. Again, the offensive line I think is one of the better ones in football on paper. If it plays that well, then that's fantastic. That can help Jared Goff. The running game can get going, of course. Again, I think they'll give up a lot of points. I like where the defense is heading, but again, my actual prediction's probably only going to be, around 3 or 4 wins. I was kind of back and forth on quite a few of these. The Bengals game, Eagles games, one, but I had the Bears 2-0, but that's kind of a back and forth one as well. Definitely think the Vikings will probably get 2 on them. It's around 3 wins would be my actually pretty. That's tough because they're going to probably squeeze out some that we just don't expect them to. And again, that could be the Niners game we talked about. Niners game, Steelers. They can get one on the Vikings perhaps. Get one on the Falcons or the Cardinals there. Between those three games, Broncos, Cardinals, Falcons, you'd like to think maybe they can squeeze out one or two of those. I don't think it's not going to be a big problem, if they only win 3 or 4 or 5 games this year. People will probably overreact. I do think they're heading in the right direction. I guess the quarterback will be the question. Will they be, if they struggle this year, will they be continuing on with Jared Goff? Will they, look for that quarterback of the future? The offensive line's in place. I love when you have the opportunity to get the offensive line in place before you get the quarterback. What I don't like is kind of passing on quarterbacks to do that, which they took Penei Sewell. So, I think I like that pick. Obviously, you completed the offensive line. So just kind of focus, and it's not like they have giant needs at the defensive side of things. I think they filled those, but I don't know if we'll see an instant impact from a lot of those guys. So I think they'll focus on, quarterback's the question, but receiver, and then maybe some spots here and there on defense. But I think the bright future for a lot of those young players. So this could kind of be an adjustment year. But then again, kind of going on the best case side of things, it feels like the adjustment period either is very short or doesn't exist compared to 5-10 years ago in the NFL. There used to be, okay, this team had an incredible draft, and then people were like, all right, they're going to be a lot better right now because how good of players they got. But then it would take at least like 2 years, and there'd be a letdown right away. The same thing with free agency. They got all these new players, great new players. But then to gain that chemistry, it took kind of a whole season to kind of get over that. Maybe a little underwhelming. We've seen that so many times. But the last few years, maybe up to 5 years, it doesn't really seem that way. It's just really about, can the coaching staff kind of get them together and get them developed earlier? It just doesn't seem like it's taking as long. So maybe all these guys, Jeff Okudah, I would almost guarantee has a better year this year. Maybe Michael Brockers clicks right away. Maybe the Okwara brothers get after Trey Flowers. We finally see his potential. Deshaun Hand, we finally see his potential. The safeties, they got young safeties, Tracy Walker, Will Harris. I like Walker. I think he was actually a little better his rookie year. But maybe Melifonwu, Aurarie, maybe these young players they all connect and they're all like, not going to reach their potential, but play at the highest point we could, that they could possibly play in year 2, 3, whatever it is, year 1 for some of these guys. So maybe they're a problem, maybe because on paper they got some good ball players. Again, I love their draft. The defensive line, we'll see what they run, more of a 3-4 or 4-3, but what they added that defensive line, in the draft, but including Michael Brockers, guys like that, and guys they already have, it looks pretty good. So it's a tricky team to predict. Again, I think there'll be some growing pains here is basically what I'm getting to. But again, it's a tough schedule. I think it's one of the harder schedules in the NFL, which is rough here. But the whole NFC North kind of has that. So one thing they could. I have them at 3 wins with this. I feel like they're going to get more than that. It's just tough to pick out. It's just really tough to pick out which ones. Maybe they get the Vikings. Again, maybe they split with those teams. Week 1, week 1's always random. That would probably be one they could possibly get. I think more around those wins are more realistic. 5, 6 feels to me better than 3 or 4, but it's just tough to pick out the games exactly here because it's such a tough schedule. But then I think a lot of people say, they went from Stafford to Goff, so they're going to be worse. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, and they got better in other spots. They got a different coaching staff. It's a whole new year. Remember, Stafford was either playing with injury or out, so a lot does ride on Jared Goff here, but I don't know if they necessarily will have a worse record or finish worse because they went from Stafford to Goff. Yes, Stafford is better than Goff, but that's really not how it works. If they do finish worse, it may not necessarily be because of that, because again, that's not how it works. But if Goff, tanks, completely plays terrible, then sure. But again, I think most of us are predicting it's kind of going to be an adjustment year, a growing year, developmental year. But I really do like. I don't think there was one time in the last several years that I loved the Lions draft and kind of loved the idea of the Lions. There's always those few people in the offseason that are like, watch out for the Lions this year. Watch out for the Lions. And I was like, why? They continue to let us down. They didn't really do anything spectacular. Sure, they had some players here and there. They got good players here and there, but I never really bought into it. And I'm not going to say watch out for the Lions this year, but I was thrilled with their draft, and I'm kind of thrilled with the direction they're heading. So, in my mind, I think that's a good sign. But again, to me, it's one of those teams where there's not a lot of pressure to me. I don't know. There's not a lot of pressure. Look at the rest of the NFC North. The Packers, the Vikings, and those teams got to win. There's some pressure there. The Bears, depending on who's at quarterback, I think with that city, there's probably some pressure with that fan base. But the Lions, if they struggle a little bit, people will get on them, but it's not the end of the world at all. So we'll see. I'm excited to see Goff in a new team, how he'll be. Maybe he'll prove some doubters wrong. And we can compare it to Stafford and the Rams, that we expect to be better, but it's going to be interesting to see. And they'll actually play each other, whereas that week 7, so that should be pretty interesting as well. So, let me know your guys' thoughts. That's the Lions' predictions. Maybe not the record the fans were looking for, but I did love their draft. If you go look at the draft videos, that was my number 1 draft there. So, really excited about that. Please smash that like button, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, link down below if you're looking for that or anything else. That is going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.